My little 5-year-old brain couldn't understand what was going on. So he explained, I'm the voice of Winnie the Pooh. And they were looking for a young Christopher Robin. I was so young, I couldn't read. They'd had to whisper my lines to me, and then I would repeat in this horrible British accent that a kid from New Mexico trying to do a British accent could muster. With the advent of Robin Williams and Jonathan Winters and all these kind of coming into television, ad-lib was it added so much humanness and naturalness to a script. My mom wasn't feeling well, went to the doctor, and the first doctor says, I think you have cancer. And her and my dad didn't want to take that, believing it. So they went to another doctor. And this lady said, how many babies have you had? And she said, I've had 5 kids. And she goes, then you of all people should know you're pregnant. You don't have cancer. I never knew what it was like to have a brother or a sister, even though I did, but they were adults. And my nephews were older than I am. I tell people she's older than Methuselah, which she doesn't really, but she's been like my second mom. The very thing I would get in trouble for in school for doing, you're making a living doing it. And she goes, I can show up to this place in my damn wheelchair because the voice is the last to go. And that stuck with me. The doctor apparently went to him and thought, maybe if I don't talk to Mel, maybe if I talk to one of the characters. And so the line goes is that he went and said, hey, Bugs, are you in there? Are you okay? And supposedly that's when Mel said, hey, what's up, Doc? Little House in particular, because it was like an hour north of Los Angeles. So we had to get up really early to be on the set. And all this hubbub of making sure you're in makeup and then in costume. And then you'd stand around for 4 or 5 hours before they would shoot, maybe at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I can write, I can direct, I can produce, I can cast, I can go build that set over there. I can run the camera. I can do a lot of things. That's why I'm here. You were not doing your job if someone goes, oh my God, was that you on the Visa commercial? Because then you were standing out and your goal is to storytell, to put the product or service before you you're not a celebrity. You're not a voice. You're just there to explain stuff.
Yeah.
When the world is against you in a way, or you feel that way, that helps to have people to say the world is not against you.
Yeah.
You need to take that next step and then the next step. And then next thing you've climbed this staircase. The trick is to make it fresh and to sound like you're on stage and you just thought up of this one joke. For that audience to experience it with you is amazing.
Life's a hell of a thing. It throws a lot of potholes, and a lot of people say it's full of tests, and it's always a learning game.
As a child, I spent many years as a child on Sesame Street. I got to know Jim Henson and Frank Oz fairly well. And even as a child, you had an ultimate feeling that Jim Henson there was something special. It was like, I can't explain it. It's like we're talking to someone you've never talked to before. He didn't just do the voice. He did the whole puppeteering.
Yeah.
And he had a unique way of making the character walk or move, and something that I as a voiceover could not ever replicate.
The work that we put out there goes into the ether, and it's amazing when years later it comes back to give you those warm fuzzies and that feeling that, wow, I didn't realize this was going to happen from this, but look at how it's changed the world or impacted at least this life.
He was the voice of Captain Crunch, Yogi Bear, Snagglepuss, Elroy Jetson, basically every Hanna-Barbera character known to man. He was like a million Jim Hensons in one. They're not voices. They're characters. They're real characters. You got to learn how to do characters, boy. Whoever said that the meaning of life is on the headstone, it's the dash. Here's the born date. Here's the death date. Life is what happens in that dash. I was confused about everything, but all of a sudden I felt like someone was on to me. Was there a tell? Was there something that I did? If you like doing all of that, you're going to have to not let that be seen, whatever that was. You're going to have to hide it because they won't hire you. I should have got an Academy Award for that stuff, because the real big acting job for the rest of my life had been putting on that, what I thought was a straight role. The whole world has shifted. This whole thing we're in now with AI and with COVID, we're having to learn real basic rules again. If I was going to have a partner, I don't want a boyfriend. I don't want a one-night stand. I want someone that I can hang my head on and that they can hang their hat on me. We might be great and perform on stage in front of the lights, in front of the microphone, but at a party, I'm not so much of a great party person because unless I have a script or I am the main attraction, I have a real issue. He was the party starter. He put on Instagram, hey, I'm going to be, people in droves would come out to see DJ Sod. You would think that all he would listen to would be club music because that's all he played, but he didn't. It was the strangest, quietest music, classical. It's like that. It's all or nothing.
It's stepping into a role, almost like acting in a way. You can learn to be like that, but it's hard to incorporate that to your core.
I have thousands of cassettes of nothing but commercials from 1981 to up till the 90s, where I would record just the commercials because I wanted to know, apparently they are good enough to be hired. My greatest fear is maybe one day waking up and my voice no longer being in demand. So the answer to that is if I can do a multitude of voices, they'll never get tired of, if they get tired of one voice, I'll switch to another and then another. You need to address the microphone because this is a woman that you're making love to. And she will love the iambic pentameter of your mellifluous voice. Right. Do you talk to your friends like with that damn voice? No, that's the way I want you to talk to me. Dana Carvey was really the star. But when you compared the impersonations, Phil's was more accurate. Funny is where the money is, basically. Mel Blanc, who didn't need a demo, but he had one. June Foray, Paul Frees. I've got an old cassette. I would be listening to these demos, trying to get these voices down. And one particular voice I absolutely just fell in love with. He was the voice of Macintosh, the voice of Nissan, the voice of Visa, it was just $1 million accounts all the way around. At 16, I had my own apartment, which should have never happened right there. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I think that imitation is the highest form of flattery. If Jesus Christ calls you tomorrow night and says, I want you to do a commercial for a wiper blade company, you're going to hang up on said Jesus and you're going to call me, Ed Grover, and you're going to ask if I can do it. It scared the hell out of me. He knew what time it was. So he said, before we ended, he says, whatever comes to you, let me have the big potatoes and I'll leave all the small potatoes for you. Is that a deal? There's a little place just outside Tupelo, Mississippi that serves up the best baby back ribs. But if you go to Ray's, be sure to bring your Visa card because he doesn't take American Express. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. If you want to talk like Michael Caine, you must speak in short sentences. I want you to think of the Statue of Liberty, a rutabaga, an orange cube, something specific. And I want you to type it in that search engine and it'll come up with a bunch of images. Going through Google Images is great because it's having you actually pull anything. You can pull anything in the world and it'll try to help you. If we were in a sandbox and there's just these children's blocks of letters of everything in that word, and they were all scattered in front of you, just mix up all the letters, reach down and pick up that letter and look at it.
You just blew my mind, sir. I thought that was going to be for sure one that would be difficult. That's amazing.
That was a good one. Yeah.
The thing that I love about my show is our listeners can listen in and they glean all of these insights, not only wonderful, amazing stories from people that they respect or at least know from the big screen, if you will. It's about the ripples in the water and it's about the love that we spread around us. We need to foster like a spirit of cooperation versus dominance. And if we can get to that place, then hopefully we can evolve as a people.
They're not trying to hurt you. They're finding ways of not getting you. You don't take it personally. You are not supposed to hear any of those conversations. As an actor, you are at the whims of other people, whether you have a career or not. And you try everything your best to prepare for it. You start going into the self-doubt. I must really suck. That I don't have a good thing on a social life. My friend left me and the last Crest commercial I went for, I didn't get.
Well, what do they say? Those that can do and those that can't teach.
Whether he liked you or whether he hated you, you were a fucking schmuck. Everybody was. But he meant it. Oh, you're a fucking schmuck. There were so many scholars that would teach film theory that it's like, Oh my God, you'd be laughed off the set.
It's all about that community spirit that makes us grow. And that legacy, you carry a part of all of these people that you talked about with you.
I was frustrated because I wanted to buy a toy and Joni wouldn't let me do it. And I was mad. And I knew I did a lot of work for her and I deserved a toy. And so I was telling one of my little friends about it, and he was like, I don't know what the problem is because she works for you. I'm like, what? So I went into her office, closed the door, and I said, you're fired. And she goes, oh, I'm fired? I said, you're fired. I can't have the Tonka truck or whatever the hell I wanted. Then either you can let me buy this with my own money, or I'm just going to fire you. I'm Connor Quinn, the actor. And she said, okay. And I said, I just got rid of my agent and I need a new one today, right now, because I want to buy some stuff. I love you to death, but there's nothing we at the William Morris Agency can do for you. If I were you, I would go back to Joni. God, that was the worst weekend of my life, dude. Monday morning, of course, she took me back, and it wasn't years later till I found out that it was all a ruse. It was all bullshit. As soon as I'd said the William Morris Agency, she called down that nobody can just walk in and say, oh, I want to speak to the head agent. You can't do that. She called and talked to receptionists. They put a kid from the mailroom in one of the, office suites, and he pretended like he was an agent. Agents did a lot more for you. They care. If she said, part your hair on the left, you parted your hair on the left. You buy this type of toothpaste, I bought that type of toothpaste. Hollywood has a really dark side. She protected us from that. If we were invited to parties, she went with us.
There's never a better compliment in life than to be a teacher.
How is it that us kids were on Sesame Street and I don't ever remember any of those guys saying something out of character or something bad or being afraid of them? I worked 2 episodes of Electric Company with a then unknown Morgan Freeman. He was playing like a mad scientist Frankenstein. He had this horrible wig. It was just, what a fascinating crew that was. There's nothing better than Gen X.
Yeah, I agree. And we remember what it was like before video games and when we used to still play outside as kids. You've seen this evolution for better and worse.
You do coaching for voiceover. They can go to your website. Maybe a producer, you might be the right guy for his documentary.
This has been Digital Voices with Bo Tiffany, exploring deep stories from real-life guests with real-life experiences, providing insight to our listeners with every story.